Very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight is about Donald Trump. We know the U.S. president-elect has a lot of plans for America. What about his proposal to expand U.S. territory to include Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal? What's behind that? What have the reactions been like? We decode what lies at the heart of the declarations that Trump has been making and what his plans are for Trumperica. That's coming up in just a bit, and here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. As Iran and Afghanistan clash over water rights, we tell you all about the ripple effects. Scenes of joy and celebration as Damascus International Airport resumed its international operations. We get you a special ground report. We also tell you what is known about China's plans to squeeze Taiwan through airspace incursions. You do not want to miss that. All this and more coming up. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about Donald Trump and his proposal to expand U.S. territory to include Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal. The incoming American president wants to make Canada the 51st state of the United States. Not just that, Donald Trump also wants to make Greenland a part of the United States. Or in his words, make Greenland great again. Now the question is, what is behind all of this? Why does he want to make Canada a part of the United States? Why is he talking about buying Greenland? Also, what do Canada and Greenland have to say about all of this? And more importantly, what is in it for Trump and the US? Well, as it turns out, a lot. For now, let's just start off with what's Trump's interest in Canada all about. You see, Trump vowed to use economic force when asked if he would attempt to annex Canada. Listen to this first.
Economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
You heard that. Trump called the shared border between the US and Canada an artificially drawn line. The boundary, by the way, is the world's longest between two countries. It was established in treaties dating back to the founding of the US in the late 1700s. Now, Trump says he wants to get rid of it in a way. Why? Because according to Trump, the US spends billions of dollars protecting Canada. He criticized imports of Canadian cars, lumber, as well as dairy products. He says Canada should be a state of the US. You see, Trump's complaint is that Canada, which is America's closest geographical friend, is allegedly freeloading of the US defense umbrella. Therefore, Canada, according to him, should be a state, rather America's 51st state, instead of being an independent nation, according to him. Now, how has Canada responded? Take a guess. To quote outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, there isn't a snowball's chance in hell of the two countries merging. Next, let's talk about what Trump said about Greenland. On Tuesday, Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., arrived in Greenland for a personal visit. And just a day earlier, Trump had reiterated his suggestion that the Danish territory should become a part of the United States. But this is just one of the several controversial territorial expansion announcements or declarations that Trump has proposed in recent weeks. You see, there appears to be a method behind Trump's declarations: national security. You heard that right. As repetitive as that may sound, Trump's statements highlight a crucial question that America is facing. What is America's place in a world shaped by China's rise, the inequalities of globalization melting polar ice, the great power instability? Let me explain this. The answer is in Trump's statement. Listen to it for yourself.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look at...
So how did Greenland react to that? Again, no points for guessing, with fury. Greenlandic and Danish officials are making it absolutely clear they want nothing to do with what Trump is proposing. But before we go any further at this point, here's some background about Greenland. Greenland used to be a Danish colony until it became self-ruled in 1979, and today it remains a territory of Denmark. Greenland's prime minister, in fact, has called for independence from Denmark, but he also said he has no interest in Greenland becoming part of the United States. In fact, independence for Greenland has become a top issue ahead of a Greenlandic parliament election set to take place no later than April 6. And both Denmark and the US have a say over the territory's defense. So then why is Trump so interested in buying Greenland? You see, for years, Trump has floated the idea of buying Greenland. He initially became interested during his first term, in fact, in the White House. It was suggested by his friend, reportedly, Ronald Lauder. Trump said he saw it as a large real estate deal. And he became more convinced when he learned more about Greenland's strategic importance, reportedly. But there is more to the story. Greenland also has the Arctic's wealth of natural resources. It is home to a large American space facility and has some of the largest deposits of rare earth minerals, which, as we know, are key to the manufacturing of batteries, high-tech devices. Greenland's main export is fish, but it's rich in mineral as well as hydrocarbon resources. They are largely untapped. Almost no minerals or hydrocarbons are produced for export after a ban on all new oil and gas exploration in 2021. Greenlandic officials saying that the environmental price of oil extraction was too high, despite estimates of billions of barrels worth of oil along the west coast and under the seabed of the east coast. At the time, the Greenland government said the ban was imposed for the sake of our nature, quote unquote. They said that the ban was imposed to focus business on sustainable potentials. Greenland, by the way, also switched its energy development to hydropower because of concerns about climate change. Further, in 2021, Greenland's parliament also passed a ban on uranium mining. As part of the ban, the development of the mine near the southern town of Narsak, which is one of the biggest deposits of rare earth elements in the world, was stopped. What's more, the melting ice in the Arctic also opens up a new strategic asset in geopolitics, which is shorter and more efficient shipping routes. For example, navigating through the Arctic Sea from Western Europe to East Asia is about 40% shorter compared to sailing through the Suez Canal, 40%. According to a recent Arctic Council report, in fact, ship traffic in the Arctic has already surged 37% over the past decade. Already, China has shown interest in a new route through the Arctic. In November, China and Russia also agreed to work together to develop Arctic shipping routes. We told you about this. Greenland is strategically very important to the Arctic. And here on Gravitas, we have told you many times that the Arctic is going to be the battleground of the future. And you see, that's the real reason Trump is interested in the wealth of Greenland and Canada. Along with Canada and Greenland, by the way, Trump has also threatened to take back Panama Canal. He's vowed to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Trump's extraordinary statement has come just 2 weeks before he is sworn in at the January 20 inauguration in Washington. His attitude embodies his America First policy, a policy of using America's strength to pursue national interests, even if it means forcing smaller allied powers. Trump believes that the U.S. should rule supreme in its own sphere of influence. But just because America can do something, does it mean that it should? There is already criticism of Trump's neo-colonialistic statements. This approach basically poses a significant risk of alienating America. Trump could jeopardize America's power by undermining alliances that have been built over decades and distancing itself from its friends. Also, let's not forget what Trump is suggesting violates international law, and so it's unlikely that Trump will get what he wants. Is it possible that his strategy might be aimed at getting better deals for the United States, perhaps greater access to rare earth minerals in Greenland, or a new trade deal with Canada that might be of advantage for U.S. manufacturers? We will have to wait for those answers to emerge. Switching focus for now, amid the rising conflict between Kabul and Islamabad, another conflict is brewing between Afghanistan and its neighbor, Iran. The dispute revolves around the allocation and use of shared river resources. Water rights have long been a source of friction in the ties between the two sides, which share a more than 900-kilometer border. Iran's foreign ministry has said that an upstream dam built by neighboring Afghanistan on the Harirud River restricts water flow into Iran and could be in violation of bilateral ties. The spokesperson for the Iranian foreign ministry has said that the Iranian government is actively pursuing the matter through diplomatic channels. The Iranian government spokesperson said that Iranian concerns had been communicated to the Afghan authorities. Bagay added, and I'm quoting, "Exploitation of water resources and basins cannot be carried out without respecting Iran's rights in accordance with bilateral treaties or applicable customary principles and rules, as well as the important principle of good neighborliness and environmental considerations," quote unquote. However, officials in Kabul saying that the Pashtun Dam project is necessary for agriculture. Abdul Ghani Baradar, Taliban's acting deputy prime minister for economic affairs, had earlier said that Pashtun project was nearing completion and water storage has commenced. According to him, the dam in Herat province will store approximately 54 million cubic meters of water, irrigate 13,000 hectares of agricultural land, and generate 2 megawatts of electricity. The dam in contention is being built on the Harirud water basin, which is shared by Afghanistan, Iran, and Turkmenistan. And it could majorly reduce water flow to Iran's eastern province of Khorasan Razavi, where over 2 million people depend on the river for drinking water. In May 2023, Iran had issued a stern warning to Afghan officials over another dam project on the Helmand River, saying that it violates the water rights of Sistan-Balochistan province in southeastern Iran. Tensions over securing Iran's water rights have persisted between Tehran and Kabul for several years, especially as water scarcity becomes an increasingly pressing issue in the region. Both the countries had signed a water treaty in 1973, under which Afghanistan is obligated to provide Iran with 26 cubic meters of water per second. On Tuesday, President-elect Donald Trump announced a $20 billion foreign investment. What for? To build new data centers across the United States. At a press conference at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, Trump also said that his longtime associate, Emirati billionaire Hossein Sajwani, is pledging at least that amount, which may go double or even more than that, as per Trump. Reports suggesting Sajwani's pledge is the latest example of a foreign business leader promising to spend big in the United States, and as a result of Trump's election victory. But who is Hossein Sajwani, and why does his pledge matter? Sajwani is the chairman of a real estate firm based out of Dubai. In fact, he has been introduced by Trump as, quote-unquote, one of the most respected business leaders in the Middle East, indeed the world. Listen to this.
Where we have somebody who's going to go from $100 to $200 billion, and we have many other people, and we'll be bringing some of them out. Some of them like to do it somewhat more quietly, and some don't, and they feel so strongly about the country that they want to let people know about it. But it's an honor to have such a great investor investing in our country.
In fact, addressing the media briefly himself, Sajwani expressed enthusiasm about Trump's leadership.
He was elected in November. We've been waiting 4 years to increase our investments in U.S. to a very large amount of money. We are a company operating in more than 20 countries around the world. We have delivered more than 45,000 luxury units and another 45,000 in the pipeline in data center.
You see, the firm is already well known for its partnership with Donald Trump, as it had built the Trump International Golf Club at a large desert development in Dubai before Trump assumed presidency in 2016. Not just that, Sajwani has also credited Trump and his leadership with boosting his company's profile globally. In the past, Sajwani's appearance at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate after his re-election in November has drawn attention to their continued partnership. Recently as well, he shared a photo of himself with Trump and billionaire Elon Musk at a New Year's Eve celebration, thus hinting at his access and closeness to Trump's inner circle. And now the latest disclosure of this $20 billion massive investment only marks a step further in strengthening their years-long partnership. But what does this investment really entail? And what all areas does this plan to address? According to Trump, initially the investment will target data centers in Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Ohio, other areas, as per reports. Besides developing state-of-the-art data centers across America, the investment is also set to revolutionize tech infrastructure, create thousands of jobs, as well as bolster America's digital dominance. What are the roles of these data centers really? They are critical for advancing AI, supporting cryptocurrency growth, enhancing digital infrastructure. What's more, they could also play a pivotal role in meeting the increasing demand for computer processing power in the digital economy. You see, over the past year, technology companies have been racing to set up data centers essential for powering generative artificial intelligence applications. And now the investment proposal only adds to the efforts towards revolutionizing data centers. Last month, a similar pledge was made by Japanese billionaire Masayoshi Son, who announced plans to invest $100 billion in the United States. And what did that comprise? As per reports, the deal was aimed at creating 100,000 AI and infrastructure jobs in America. All said and done, one thing is clear: Trump's vision is to bring large-scale international investments to boost the American economy, and we will have to wait and watch to find out what else lies ahead. On to Syria now, where on Tuesday, unusual scenes greeted the Syrians. Anything unlike that has been seen in a long while. There were tears of joy, singing, dancing, clapping, moments of celebration at the airport as the Damascus International Airport resumed international operations. Our next report telling you more.
Nearly a month after rebel forces toppled the Bashar al-Assad regime, Damascus International Airport resumed its international operations on Tuesday. The first flight departed on Tuesday morning for Sharjah, the UAE, while a separate aircraft arrived from Doha, the first civilian flight from Qatar in 13 years. In videos shared by Syrian media, people were seen waving Syrian flags and singing songs, celebrating and even sharing their joy.
Look at this joy. Look at the Syrian people, how happy they are. We did a wedding on the plane from Doha until here. We were singing throughout the flight.
Passengers were seen hugging their families with tears of joy after meeting them. It also marked a refreshing change from 2012, when most airline companies halted their flights to and from Damascus airport following the Assad regime's crackdown on civil democracy protests. These posed travel hurdles for many Syrians who are obliged to travel via Lebanon or Jordan, as well as created difficulties related to costs and time. Not just Damascus, flight operations in Aleppo and other places too were temporarily suspended after the change of situation at the end of last year, when the Syrian transitional government officially took over power on December 10th. And now, the chairman of the Syrian General Authority of Civil Aviation and Air Transport, Ashad al-Salibi, sees the resuming of international flights as a welcome change.
We made a lot of efforts as a General Committee for Aviation in order to reconstruct and activate the airport in cooperation with our Qatari brothers, who had a significant role. We reached a point where we can reactivate Damascus International Airport, and today you saw the first flight that went from Damascus to Sharjah and a flight from Doha to Damascus.
After Damascus, he also assured that in the near future, international flights could resume in the Aleppo International Airport in northern Syria. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The United States is negotiating with the Taliban for the release of 3 American detainees in Afghanistan in exchange for a high-profile Afghan prisoner held in Guantanamo Bay. The Afghan in question in Guantanamo is reported to have links to former Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. The proposed prisoner swap involves trading Mohammad Rahim al-Afghani, an alleged Al-Qaeda facilitator, for Ryan Corbett, George Glizman, and Mahmoud Habibi. The 3 Americans were detained in Afghanistan in 2022. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, the Taliban denied holding Mahmoud Habibi and instead offered to exchange Ryan Corbett and George Glizman for Mohammad Rahim al-Afghani and 2 other prisoners. Mohammad Rahim Al-Afghani was arrested in Pakistan in June 2007 and handed over to the CIA the following month. He was reportedly the last person brought into the CIA's interrogation program, which was established after the 9/11 attacks. This program used harsh methods, including sleep deprivation, to extract information from suspected Islamist militants. Rahim's lawyer, James Connell, claimed that Rahim was subjected to these techniques, but the CIA maintains that they did not constitute torture and accused him of being an Al-Qaeda facilitator. Rahim was transferred to Guantanamo Bay in March 2008, where he has been held since. According to the Wall Street Journal, the negotiations between the United States and Taliban have been ongoing since July, with the Biden administration working to secure the release of 3 Americans. The report said that the U.S. administration has been taking steps to close the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center, with 11 detainees transferred to Oman on Monday. Reuters has reported that Rahim's lawyers told them that neither the Biden administration nor the Taliban have included them in the negotiations, but added that his client is willing to be traded or exchanged. Close to the 3-year mark, Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine is witnessing the hostilities peak in the Kursk region. And the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is facing the heat. A survey released by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology says the people's trust in the Ukrainian president is eroding. While 52% Ukrainians trust Zelensky's leadership, 39% showed distrust, while 9% are undecided. The poll essentially is a wake-up call for the Ukrainian president, as Ukrainians' belief in him seems to be nosediving over the years. Back in 2023, 77% Ukrainians trusted the president. By February 2024, trust had fallen to 64%, and by May 2024, it dropped further to 59%. The numbers stabilized by October, but trust levels declined again between October and December, adding to the uncertainty surrounding Ukraine's future and, more importantly, about Zelensky's capabilities to govern the country. Zelensky swept to victory in the Ukraine presidential polls in 2019, promising to end bitter fighting with Kremlin-backed separatists in the east of the country. His 5-year term officially ended last year, but under martial law, Kiev cannot host elections. On the battleground, Ukraine has claimed its forces have struck a Russian military command post in Russia's Kursk region. On the other hand, Moscow saying its forces have captured the logistics hub of Kurakhove in eastern Ukraine. The development comes as French President Emmanuel Macron told Kiev to have realistic expectations as its war with Russia enters the 4th year. But Ukraine is also making changes to its war strategy. This week, in fact, for the first time, Kiev said it successfully used uncrewed surface vessels, better known as drone boats, to launch aerial drones against Russian targets. The first-person view or the FPV drones were employed in combat during strikes on Russian ground-based air defense systems, including 2 Russian systems and a system in the Kherson region. It marked the latest in Ukraine's Black Sea drone war that is seeing increasingly innovative use of uncrewed systems. Russian military bloggers have also confirmed Ukraine's use to launch FPV drones on targets close to the Black Sea coast. Ukraine's government-run media organization released more details of the strikes that it describes as the first of this kind. These developments also underscoring the importance of drones, especially the FPV types that provide a relatively low-cost and accurate way for the Ukrainian troops to compensate for the huge gap in standoff strike weapons and artillery. Meanwhile, Russia's all-new advanced drone has reportedly made its war debut, called a game changer in the war against Ukraine. Weapon manufacturer Kalashnikov released the first footage of the kamikaze drone that is now being shared by Russian military bloggers. The long-range kamikaze drone was officially unveiled by Russia's arms manufacturer in late December last year, along with its predecessor. According to the Kalashnikov CEO, it is designated to destroy enemy unarmored military equipment and armored personnel carriers. It is built for quick deployment and precision strikes. In fact, the manufacturer claims that its combat capabilities and flight range greatly outperform those of earlier drones in the series. Analysts saying it may have been developed by Russia in response to the shortcomings in the Geran-2 drone that includes the use of components of Western origin that need to be substituted through alternative procurement. Our next story is about China and its plans to squeeze Taiwan through airspace incursions. 2024 saw China launch a record number of warplane incursions around Taiwan as it continues to build its ability to invade Taiwan. According to Taiwanese military experts, in fact, China could be capable of doing just that within a decade. Just have a look at what this looks like. It is a representation of just how many times Chinese airplanes violated Taiwan's airspace in the last 1 year. Chinese warplanes are flying more often into and in larger numbers very close to Taiwan. Every time they do that, Taiwan's military is forced to respond, which also wears down its resources and, in a way, the morale. Not to mention, it erodes warning times and as forces Taiwan to shrink the territorial space that it can practically cover. In 2022, 1,727 Chinese military planes flew into Taiwan's de facto ADIZ. That was double the previous year's total. In 2023, it was a similar number, but heavily concentrated during military drills launched in April and September. In 2024, there were more than 3,000 PLA incursions. Due to changes in the Taiwan Defense Ministry's reporting methods last year, it's no longer possible to see what type of PLA planes flew or where. But the number of incursions is still worrisome, especially given the diversity of the PLA's course of activity against Taiwan. Besides the air zone incursions, the PLA has also demonstrated more sophisticated joint operations, drone encirclements of the island, missile tests, and integration of civilian forces. In its annual report on China's military developments, according to U.S. Defense Department, PLA has also, in fact, long emphasized the importance of joint firepower strikes. As a component of large-scale operations, they have explicitly tied that to a Taiwan invasion in PLA writings. Just have a look at this map now. Chinese military drills held in May and October, named Joint SWORD 2024 A and B, surrounded Taiwan's main island with joint exercises by all branches of the PLA. It included, for the first time, the increasingly militarized Coast Guard. Also, what does that tell you? It basically shows that China is demonstrating its ability to surge forces, get people up and moving, to seize the operating area. According to a former head of Taiwan's armed forces, Admiral Lee Si-min, the PLA's Taiwan-focused tactics could be broadly categorized into 4 types. Number 1, intimidatory tactics. It includes what is known as grey zone warfare, such as its near-daily incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone, ADIZ. Coercive tactics being number 2. They could be creating a blockade or quarantine. Number 3, punitive attacks, which includes missile bombardments. And lastly, number 4 being conquest, that is full-scale invasion. Let me explain this. The intimidatory approach basically deters Taiwan from declaring independence, whereas coercive and punitive measures would be to force Taiwan's government or its people to capitulate on unification with China. Admiral Tang Hua, commander of Taiwan's Navy, in fact, has described China's coercive tactics as anaconda strategy. It is the PLA's strategy to squeeze Taiwan. It includes a bid to exhaust Taiwan's response system and force mistakes. In several incidents, including as recently as last week, undersea communication cables to Taiwan were reportedly cut or damaged. And now Taiwan alleges this was done by Chinese ships. Experts saying that severing communication would be part of a blockade or attack. The PLA is fully capable of taking all the other measures, but it has yet to launch a blockade or attack only because it hasn't yet enacted the fourth, that is conquest. You see, if the people of Taiwan don't surrender, then what should China do? According to U.S. intelligence, Xi Jinping has given the PLA a 2027 deadline to reach capability of a full-scale invasion, 2027. Admiral Lee, in fact, said that no one can predict exactly when they will be ready. But he, along with others in the Taiwanese defense establishment, do believe that China could try to invade the self-ruled island within a decade. In the meantime, training, often in the form of grey zone warfare, continues in China, and most of it has taken the form of Air Force flights into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. In fact, Taiwan's officials have now come to expect multiple PLA drills ostensibly targeting Taiwan each year. So far, Taiwan has managed to maintain control with their responses, and analysts expect PLA to continue the tactics in 2025. Taipei resoundingly rejects the prospect of Chinese rule, as does a growing majority of Taiwan's people. They appear unlikely to capitulate. Tens of thousands of people are fleeing their homes in California as a brush fire in the Pacific Palisades quickly spreads to nearly 3,000 acres. Authorities have warned the blaze is spreading as even stronger winds are expected through the night. The Los Angeles Fire Department said the fire started at 10:30 a.m. with the winds reaching at least 40 mph. Take a look.
California burning. Nature's fury unleashing an inferno that is devastating homes and properties. Sparing no one from common folk to celebrities who are fleeing on foot from areas packed with multi-million-dollar homes. More than 5,000 have been evacuated in Pasadena. The affluent Pacific Palisades neighborhood has seen homes of celebrity A-listers destroyed. A fierce windstorm is spreading the wildfires in multiple locations around Los Angeles, forcing tens of thousands to abandon their cars in upscale neighborhoods.
We are not out of danger. The National Weather Service has predicted that the winds are going to pick up and get worse. We're going to have the most significant wind event between 10 p.m. this evening and 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it's incumbent that everybody have a wildfire action plan for their home if they live in a brush-covered area. Please visit the LA County Fire Department website for ready, set, go information.
Hundreds of firefighters are scrambling to douse the flames from the ground and the air, using bulldozers to push dozens of destroyed vehicles, including expensive models like BMWs, Teslas and Mercedes, to one side. Nearly 3,000 homes in the Pacific Palisades between the coastal settlements of Santa Monica and Malibu burned within 7 hours of the first fire. Officials warn the worst wind conditions will come overnight. The fire jumped from the Pacific Coast Highway while another fire broke out in Eaton Canyon near Pasadena, quickly consuming thousands of acres. A woman said she snuck into an Altadena neighborhood in California to hose down her parents' house as the fire in Eaton spread rapidly. Lynn Levin Guzman, an 82-year-old nurse, said her parents no longer had fire insurance.
So they're dealing with this. They're 90 years old. And through the state of California, because of this, they're 90 years old, that they've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance, and these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance.
But what is spreading the fires? It's the seasonal Santa Ana, a dry, warm and gusty northeast wind that blows from the interior of Southern California towards the coast and offshore. It moves in the opposite direction of the normal onshore flow that carries moist air from the Pacific into the region. Humidity levels often plunge to single-digit percentages during Santa Ana winds. The extreme lack of humidity causes the vegetation to dry out significantly and become susceptible to fires. Scientists warn that climate change is making wildfires more intense and harder to control, and the reason for that is drier fuels. Rising temperatures are making vegetation more combustible, and the lack of moisture only adds to the challenge for firefighters. Hotter temperatures and drier conditions are a lethal combination that have left the region highly vulnerable to the growing wildfire crisis. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
On to Japan now. It has a rather serious problem: declining birth rates. And now a Japanese expert has warned that if the birth rate continues to fall, the country will be left with only one child under the age of 14 by the 5th of January 2720. A Japanese expert on demographic trends and aging society thinks that this is a wake-up call, quite literally, for Japan's population concerns. Hiroshi Yoshida, a professor at Tohoku University's Research Center for Aged Economy and Society, has been maintaining a conceptual clock. What does that do? It basically highlights Japan's rapidly declining fertility rate by displaying real-time data on the number of children in the country. How exactly does it map that? Well, the clock shows the number of children in the current year and the previous year and tracks the decrease every second. What's more, adding to its unique operations, the clock draws official population data from the Japanese Statistics Bureau and calculates a decreasing rate by comparing the number of children in consecutive years. And based on this steady decline, the clock then estimates the year when the number of children will drop to just one. According to the latest calculation, this would happen around the year 2720. That seems a long way from now, but it is concerning nonetheless. And the clock is literally ticking. According to the Japan Times, as a practice, Yoshida has been releasing estimates every year since April 2012. And what's more, the forecast is derived from the annual rate of decline in the population of children, and the latest data reflects a 2.3% decrease. In 2023, Japan's birth rate dropped to a record low of 1.20, with Tokyo's rate falling below 1. But what led to the decline? As per reports, this decline has been linked to fewer marriages and a growing number of people remaining single. Meanwhile, based on government data, the number of births in Japan during the first half of 2024 fell to its lowest level since 1969. Between January and June last year, Japan recorded 350,074 births, a 5.7% drop from the same period in 2023, as per the Health Ministry's preliminary report. Clearly, Japanese policymakers seem to be going out of their way to implement measures in order to tackle the declining birth rate, including expanding childcare facilities, offering housing subsidies, even launching a government-run dating app to encourage marriage and childbearing. Can they succeed though? Only time will tell. Are you stressed out? I know it's only the middle of the week. It's Wednesday. It might be feeling like a Monday or a Friday, perhaps, depending on the kind of week you've had. Let me just tell you why I'm asking you that rather loaded question. Because we've all heard about how stress affects us, our bodies, our minds. But have you thought about how your stress affects others around you? Have you thought about how your stress levels impact your pets, your dog? You see, earlier, researchers demonstrated that the behavior of a dog owner at the vet impacts the stress levels of the pet. Basically, how negative behavior of the owner meant increased dog anxiety levels during the vet examination. And what happens in a controlled environment? A study looked specifically at the effect of owner stress, measured through heart rate changes, on the stress experienced by the dog when at a vet. Owners and dogs wore heart rate monitors. It was found that changes in an owner's heart rate can predict changes in their dog's heart rate. The dog's heart rates go down as they acclimatize to novel environments. Basically, dog behavior correlates with their heart rate and heart rate variability. If the owner's heart rate increased or decreased during the experiment, their dog's heart rate was also likely to increase or decrease. These results basically suggest that dogs may recognize stress in their owners. This is extremely significant. What does all of that also tell you? Our stress has the potential to impact our pets, our dogs. And staying calm is the mantra, like we've been told, so our dogs can feel calm as well. You think millionaires splurge on yachts and champagne? Well, think again. Meet the new age wealth wizards who drive second-hand cars, thrift their wardrobes, and cook up savings one batch at a time. It's not just about getting rich, it's about staying rich. Ready to unlock the secrets of underconsumption. Take a look at this report to find out more.
Who needs a yacht when a kayak will do? Meet the millionaires swapping champagne for reusable water bottles and designer closets for thrift shop treasures. These new age money moguls are rewriting the playbook, proving that you don't need to spend big to live large. Welcome to the era of underconsumption where less is more. A new frugal finesse is making waves, especially on social media platforms, where hashtags like frugal living and money goals have gone viral. They think of themselves as the Warren Buffetts of the minimalist movement. Their mantra? Every penny saved is a penny compounding. Fast fashion? Pass. Second-hand cars? Yes please. They're saying no to excess and yes to early retirement, bigger investments and financial freedom. But don't mistake this for deprivation. It's all about mindful spending. Groceries in bulk, no-buy challenges and smart investments in durable goods are their weapons of choice in the war against consumerism. They're not just stretching dollars, they're flipping them into stocks, experiences and dreams. And they're not shy about their motives. The goal? Freedom from financial stress and the ability to work on their terms. In a world obsessed with keeping up, turns out the real secret to living large is to get rich the smart way and to stay rich the frugal way. Bureau Report WION, World is One.
Today marks the 90th birth anniversary of the late legend Elvis Presley. Fondly remembered as the king of rock and roll, he is believed to be the man who changed the face of music forever. Here's a look at some lesser-known facts about the legend. Born on the 8th of January 1935 in Mississippi, he became a household name with his breakthrough song, That's All Right. Recorded at Sun Studio, the track garnered widespread attention, catapulting him to stardom and marking the beginning of his legendary journey. The music legend achieved unparalleled success as a recording artist, selling over 1 billion records worldwide. In the US alone, Presley earned gold, platinum, multi-platinum certifications for an incredible 150 albums and singles, cementing his status as a global icon. And among his many iconic hits, Hound Dog, which released in 1956, holds a special place, earning a spot in the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1988. Another hit, It's Now or Never, which came out in 1960, is widely regarded as Elvis Presley's biggest international success. The track sold an astounding 25 million copies worldwide. And of course, the timeless classic, Cannot Help Falling in Love, continues to captivate audiences even today. And it has been streamed hundreds and millions of times. Interestingly, Elvis Presley's career was not limited to music alone. He also made his mark in Hollywood, starring in 33 successful films. Among them was the iconic Jailhouse Rock, which released in 1957. The movie was directed by Richard Thorpe and remains a fan favorite to this day. The icon passed away on the 16th of August, 1977, at the age of 42 after suffering a heart attack in Tennessee. Even 4 decades after his passing, his influence on rock and roll pop culture remains as strong as ever. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and